Hello, I'm television and radio presenter Rob McKnight. With over 30 years' experience, this is Media McKnight. And in that 30 plus years, I have not seen anything like this because radio's biggest drama has come to a spectacular end. Jackie O has officially left the Kyle and Jackie O show, and the show itself will be taken off air immediately. ARN made the announcement to the ASX late Tuesday afternoon, saying ARN Media Limited announces that Ms. Jacqueline Henderson has given notice that she cannot continue to work with Mr. Kyle Sandilands. Accordingly, ARN has terminated the services agreement with Henderson Media Party Limited, under which Ms. Henderson presents the Kyle and Jackie O show. Ms. Henderson will cease to present the Kyle and Jackie O show. ARN has also offered Ms. Henderson the possibility of an alternative show on the ARN network. ARN has also provided written notice to Mr. Kyle Sandilands and Quasar Media Services Party Limited, stating that it considers that Mr. Sandilands' behaviour during the show on 20 February 2026 is an act of serious misconduct, which is in breach of ARN Services agreement with Quasar Media, under which Mr. Sandilands presents the Kyle and Jackie O show. Mr. Sandilands has been given 14 days to remedy this breach. If it is not remedied, ARN will terminate the services agreement with Quasar Media, and in that event, Mr. Sandilands will cease to present the Kyle and Jackie O show. During the 14-day period, Mr. Sandilands will not take part in the show. The Kiss Breakfast show will be taken off air effective immediately, with interim arrangements made for the show. I just want to take a moment for all those people who said this was a publicity stunt. Geez, you guys are clever, aren't you? This was never a publicity stunt, and you could hear that in the way Jackie was reacting in that first video. And if you want to hear that exchange between Kyle and Jackie O, there's a link in the description of this video to a previous editorial I did on the subject. But what is this saying? I'm recording this on Tuesday evening, right before it's meant to be up on YouTube, and the announcement only came through late this afternoon on the ASX. To me, it reads like Kyle's done too. And ARN can use this serious breach to get out of its $10 million a year contract with Kyle and Jackie O. Now, they'll obviously tread carefully, because if she has left because she cannot work with Mr. Sandilands, as she puts it, then there is a serious issue that ARN need to be careful. So she will end up, maybe she'll end up as the drive host, doing where Smallsy's surgery currently is. But what about Kyle? Can the show go on without Jackie? Well, yes, it can, and it's been doing that. But as media revenues disintegrate into nothing, it's a perfect opportunity for ARN to get out of a cumbersome contract, a 10-year, $200 million contract, $100 million each for Kyle and for Jackie O. Now, having said that, their contracts do state that they don't have to be employed together. But how does he rectify this within 14 days? How does he remedy this breach? It happened, it was on air, and his co-host left him. What's to remedy? We'll come back to that in a moment. For the moment, let's go back to the events of this week, when Kyle and listeners expected the show to receive the return of Jackie on Monday. But on Sunday night, rumours began swirling that she would be taking another week off. And sure enough, those rumours turned out to be true, with Kyle announcing Jackie would be away for another week.
Listen, I do feel that Jackie will be back, so I know there's a lot of speculation and everyone thinks they know everything. But if anyone would know anything, it would be me, and I know nothing. Zero. Big, fat zero about anything.
Yeah.
Even the people that are dealing with it, I ring and ask, hey, what's the latest? And they go, we don't know.
I guess
We've got the A-team on it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Maybe she doesn't know, I suppose. Like,
have you spoken to Jackie?
I've spoken to her, yeah.
Uh-huh.
But
I mean,
I don't have anything to report really. That's just that she's
well.
fine.
She's okay.
She's doing well.
That's all I really care about.
Yeah.
I know that she's alive because I see the photos in the Daily Mail.
Yeah. Just going on walks, getting some fresh air.
Yeah. So she's not at home in the fetal position. She's around and walking, which is great.
Yeah.
But that belief from Kyle was at odds with reporting by Peter Ford on 3AW Monday morning.
She will not be back on air this week, and I'm told more than likely she won't be coming back ever. Now, there was a conference call that took place on Friday between Jackie O's manager, Gemma Fordman, and radio executives, and there was a word used during that meeting, and the bosses thought it was going to be pretty straightforward. They're going to kiss and make up and back on air today and milk it for all the publicity they can get. No, that was not the tone of the call at all. And Gemma used one word which has really set off red flags with the radio management. She talked about the fact that Jackie O feels unsafe in the workplace.
It was a huge statement, and he turned out to be right. His statement about the unsafe workplace was never challenged by ARN. It was beginning to seem obvious that Jackie had no intention of returning, despite how unlikely that seemed to everyone, especially those people who were still thinking it was a stunt. Meanwhile, in a short interview with Radio Info, Kyle confirmed my reporting from last week that he wasn't in the studio with Jackie when the blow-up occurred. He also admitted he shouldn't have had that conversation on air and, importantly, didn't deny Peter Ford's reporting. And on Tuesday morning, he was still holding out hope that Jackie would eventually return.
Bruno mentioned that too the other day. It said that I'd broken my silence, and I didn't realise I was silent on it.
Not
Every
silence.
day I'm bringing it up.
Yeah.
I'm sharing what little I know with everybody.
Yeah.
Hey, I did get some good news, though, yesterday. I'll give you some internal info, because no one's told me not to mention this.
Yeah.
Because it's a tender situation here with the Jackie situation, and it's sort of out of my hands, even though I lit the match.
Yeah.
The fire brigade's now putting out the, it's a bad analogy, but
What's the good news?
I had to witness, because anything that's got my name on it, I have to sign off on it. Mm-hmm. So I signed off yesterday. I think it's some sort of a statement coming from Jackie's camp. And the end, I noticed, this is the only thing I really noticed, is that Jackie will be returning in the future. So that's a good sign. That's from her camp. So the intention is to come back.
Great.
Which is fabulous. You and I were talking about this yesterday privately. That's all we want.
Yeah, Jackie, we love you and we want you back.
I've got to say, I think Kyle misunderstood that statement. To me, the line, Jackie will be returning in the future, it didn't necessarily mean she would be returning to the Kyle and Jackie O show. It seemed ambiguous enough to me that it would mean, or could mean, she's expected to return to KISS in some capacity. Statements like the one Kyle has cited would usually reinforce her returning to The Breakfast Show. That was ambiguous, and that statement never ended up going out. And the idea of her returning to The Breakfast Show with Kyle went against the reporting from Peter Ford on Sunrise on Tuesday morning.
Yeah, well, the industry scuttlebutt, certainly people who are very close to this story are telling me they are not getting back together ever. And in fact, Jackie O is sought legal advice as to what her options might be. Now, clearly she's under a pretty tight contract. And that contract, of course, was for 10 years. We're only really early days of it yet. And it's worth, obviously, a lot of money as well. I'm hearing Jackie O feels she has to take a stand here. And she has to do it to show that you do not have to be demeaned and belittled in your workplace, as she was on that particular day when Kyle gave her that dressing down. I think Jackie O wants to take a stand to show her daughter Kitty that you don't have to put up with it.
Well, he was right. Now, based on that reporting, which again was never denied by ARN, all of Tuesday, it really didn't look like there was any coming back. The use of the term unsafe workplace, that's an interesting one. Especially considering Jackie ran the production team. She approved the segments and worked with the producers, and every hire went through her. And it would be fair to say she had set the expectations of what is and what isn't acceptable on the show. I find this very interesting because Kyle has been working within an idea of a friendship. Yes, things may have strained over the years, but they've been friends and work colleagues for a long time. They've always pushed the boundaries. Now, was it appropriate for him to have that conversation on air? Everybody looks at that and goes, no. But we have to remember, this is the show that records what happens in the studio during the ad breaks and puts that to air. Producers have been recorded saying stuff. Conversations have been put to air, and that's what you sign up for. So the idea that they would have a conversation like that wasn't crazy to Kyle. Now, obviously, it pushed Jackie's buttons. But I've got to put yourself in Kyle's position for the moment. How would you be feeling? You'd be feeling like you've had the rug pulled from under you. This person, you've had a friend, he calls her babe. They're very affectionate to each other. She has stuck up for him. And all of a sudden, the goalposts have moved. Again, I'm not defending what he did on that day. But I'm saying in the confines of a relationship, of a friendship, she could tell him later on this wasn't appropriate. And he's already learned a harsh lesson from it. You can hear how sorry he is in the weeks that have gone by since that incident on February 20. But to lose a friend and a job, that's got to knock him for six. I think he'll be in a spin at the moment, not really getting what has happened here. And I don't get it either, because I don't understand how it can just explode to this point where she says she cannot work with him. Well, an interesting element to this story is a piece of audio played on the Game Changers podcast. It shows how Jackie O had seemingly become disconnected from the show, something that I hear has been building to that blow up with Kyle, and obviously what has happened today.
You're not interested in anything that I have to say. You're like a wife 16 years into the marriage.
Yeah.
You
that
hear
could be
things.
a little. Yeah, you do. It does become like that a little bit. So
and I still hang on every word.
I apologise if I do.
About time. Thank you. I've been waiting for that apology.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I do that.
Oh, no.
But it does sometimes get like that, I guess, where you become a bit husband and wifey, and then the other person's talking, and you just tune out.
You think, I'd rather you died in your sleep.
It's not that I'm thinking that. It's just that I tune out, you know?
I struggle with that. For $10 million a year, you can't pay attention to your co-host? I find that extraordinary, that you're openly admitting you tune out. When you're in a studio on air, I don't care how long you've been doing it, you pay attention. You're meant to react off him. That, to me, oh my gosh, I'm just dumbfounded. I tell you what, give me $1 million, I'll be engaged. You know, jeez. And look, while we're talking the Game Changers podcast, Craig Bruce dined out on the fact that Kyle called him last week. Now, Craig was Kyle's boss at Today FM and famously made the call that the station no longer needed Kyle and Jackie O. But Kyle called him up after he'd had a spray about Craig and the Game Changers podcast on the Kiss show.
You got a call from the big man, Kyle.
Yeah, interesting. I totally out of the blue. So I haven't spoken to him. The last time I spoke to him was on our podcast, Melbourne Radio Wars.
Almost a year and a half ago. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it started with, we got a shout out on the show on Wednesday morning at 6 o'clock. I actually haven't heard the audio.
And someone told me they did an emergency podcast for this radio Game Changers thing, focusing on this, and then everyone who doesn't really know us was giving all this advice as to what's going on. They don't know us.
No, but also they're giving us too much credit by being like, "Oh, you guys set it up." Like,
so hang on. So even these so-called radio experts think it's all made up.
Yeah. Like
that shows how off kilter these people are.
Yeah, if anyone actually knew us, they'd be like, "Oh, you guys are too dumb."
Yeah, so there it is. So I sent a couple of text messages to Bruno on Wednesday afternoon. Bruno Boucher, who is Kyle's manager, and I normally don't. I don't normally.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah, well, I think you were going to as well, weren't you? Okay, I'll give you just part of one of the text messages. So Kyle is right. I haven't worked with him for 15 years, but I did work with him for 10 years, and I do know more than most about how the show works. Not sure why you'd say we thought it was a stunt when we said the exact opposite of you just trying to fire him up. So we had a back and forth on text. It was fine. We didn't get into a kind of a shouting match on text, but about 15 minutes after the last text, it was around 4 o'clock, this unknown number calls me and, "G'day, mate. It's your old employee." And I've gone, "That's fucking Kyle."
Did you think someone was having you on?
Oh, well, the first thing I said to him, are you recording this? I thought, oh, he's in a studio and he's going to get everything down on tape. We spoke for 20 minutes. He was in great spirits. So he wanted to clear the air with me. He said, look, I don't want there to be any beef here. Like, I know there's confusion. You probably just got caught up in all of the other outlets that were saying it was a stunt. And so we went back and forth on that in a really positive way. He was in a good mood. When he's in a good mood, is fun.
I reckon it was really good of Kyle to do that. But Craig and Irene weren't exactly honest with their listeners. They played a clip, but it was a very selective clip that made it look like Kyle hadn't had a big spray. The reason Kyle rang is because this is the audio they chose to leave out.
Someone said our old, the old program director from the old station, remember the one that told me, oh, you've only got 2 years of your career left, and then I moved the entire show to this network, and then he lost his job because of his ridiculous ideas of how radio was doing. Anyway, he's out of the industry, completely wiped like a dirty asshole. And now he's toting himself as the industry professional who got everything wrong. And he's doing a podcast. And someone told me they did an emergency podcast for this radio game changers thing, focusing on this. And then everyone who doesn't really know us was giving all this advice as to what's going on. They don't know us.
If you're going to hold the media to account, which the Game Changers podcast does very well, it forced change at ARN after a really hard interview with Lauren Joyce. They have influence. But if you're going to have that influence and hold media to account, you also have to be honest with your audience. Now, it's no wonder Kyle felt guilty. He went hard. But it wasn't just Kyle and Jackie O getting called out by Game Changers. So did yours truly. I copped it for an opinion piece I wrote for the Daily Mail. Now, the basis of that article was that Jackie O has had a lot of success, but only moderately as a solo performer.
A couple of editorials, one from Robert McKnight. There's no denying Henderson's talent, but it's equally true that aside from her stint on The Masked Singer before its cancellation, she hasn't managed to carve out sustained success beyond her partnership with Sandilands. I mean, that is just
that's an idiotic thing to say.
I mean, seriously, Robert, what are you saying? I mean, this woman has been 20 years number one. Nathan Jolly at Mumbrella.
That edit was theirs, where it went from me to there. That was pretty brutal edit, Irene. I wonder what else they said. Idiotic. Pretty dismissive of someone else's opinion and reeked of arrogance, I've got to say. Now, even though they might think the comment was idiotic, I stand by it. The whole article talked about the success Kyle and Jackie O has had with Kyle. But that was literally the point. What other major success has she had outside the radio gig? I am a big fan of Jackie. I think she could do a lot more. But nothing has overly worked so far. And they didn't give any examples of how she had. They literally said she's been successful for 20 years. Yes, with Kyle, on the Kyle and Jackie O show. But my whole point of the article was about her trying to find an identity away from Kyle, and her solo projects have only had moderate success. So, am I idiotic? Or is that an idiotic comment? I don't know. Anyway, I reached out to the Game Changers podcast with the subject title, Idiotic, and I said, hi team, I've been called worse, but I would like the chance to respond by talking to you both on my show to understand the major successes Jackie has had outside the Kyle and Jackie O show. Because while I really value her as a performer, I don't believe she has. Many thanks, Rob. Now, shockingly, I've had no response. I think if you make a statement like that, you should be able to back it up. I'm happy to be challenged about my opinions, but I have no respect for people who throw stones and then run a mile. Guys, you have my contact details. Now, I know I've talked a lot about Kyle and Jackie O, but I need to call out a bit of, how shall we say, creative reporting by the folks at news.com.au. On Monday, they ran this article, which has been updated multiple times, saying Jackie O breaks cover after failing to show up for another week. Now, within the article, these pictures were posted claiming Jackie had emerged from her home on the day she was meant to be back on air. The story by Leah Goulis included this copy. As she emerged from her home on Monday, Jackie did not appear to be her happy and bubbly self. Dressed casually in a pair of baggy cargo pants and grey t-shirt, The 51-year-old single mum kept her head down as she headed out to an appointment with black sunglasses shielding her eyes from the cameras waiting. There's just one little problem. Those pictures of Jackie that they said were taken on Monday were actually taken on Saturday. How do I know this? Because the same pics of Jackie in the same outfit were posted on the Daily Mail website on Sunday alongside additional angles. Under the headline, Jackie O. Henderson looks downcast during Sydney stroll amid radio break following on-air clash with Kyle Sandilands, and right at the top of the story by Jimmy Briggs, it literally says, Radio Queen Jackie O. Henderson cut a downbeat figure as she stepped out in Sydney on Saturday as speculation swirls over tensions with co-host Kyle Sandilands. Now, the story by news.com.au was a blatant lie. And it's so stupid. The article would still be as strong if they hadn't pretended the photos were from Monday. They could have still written about her downcast look during this trying time, but no, they chose to lie to their readers. No ifs, no buts, it's a blatant lie. And when I approached them for comment about it, guess what? I received no response. Shock, horror. And if they're lying to their readers about something as trivial as this, what else are they lying about? Let's move on to some good news. If you've been watching Media McKnight, you'll know I've had a bit of an issue with the opening shot of 9 News Queensland.
This is 9 News Queensland with Melissa Downs and Joel Dry.
Good evening. Mexico is tonight in turmoil.
Now, this has been a typical night on the Bulletin, with that horrible desk there for everyone to see. With makeup and tissues, it's an absolute mess. Well, there's some good news, as I said. On Wednesday, they changed the shot to get rid of the desk. Now, look, this shot isn't as nice, but you can see they were thinking. But then, on Thursday, the desk was gone, and doesn't it look fantastic? And that's the way it's been ever since, and I love it, love it, love it. You know, sometimes it's worth celebrating the little things. Jeez, that scared me. Thank you, Channel 9. You've made just one person happy, and maybe the other viewers will notice it as well, but I certainly do. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You can show your support for the show by buying me a coffee. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/McKnight tonight. Every bit helps keep this show from our garage going. Well, we know that TV networks are struggling with declining ad revenue, and it's affecting budgets across all shows. Well, now it's been revealed Channel 7 has stopped paying contributors to its midday news. The newsreader on the Kyle and Jackie O show, or what was the Kyle and Jackie O show, Brooklyn Ross, he's been a regular panellist on the Hot Topic segment and revealed the pay cut to Kyle Sandilands. It came up while they were discussing news coverage of the Jackie O situation.
So anyway, that's the state of play for the Kyle Jackie saga. Don't believe any of these so-called experts that think they know what's going on and they know how it works, because none of these people have even spoken to us for 15 years. So anything you read about from these experts that's just the way they earn their $300 from the Daily Mail that week. They're picking a 300 here and 150 here, scooping up their money. They'll appear on the news. Oh, thanks, I'll charge them $200 for that. It's Scabsville.
They even get cash, you reckon, for just little comments?
Oh, they do, yeah. Otherwise, if someone asked me about a comment from someone I knew 15 years ago, I'd say, I'm sorry, I don't know them anymore. I don't know what their personality is
but
like.
you're very driven by cash. Other people might just talk.
Bruno, tell Brooklyn how it works. Do you get paid when you go into Channel 7 and do your spots?
No, not anymore. Not anymore. I used to.
You never get. What do you go for?
I don't go very often now.
So they want you to go in there for free?
Yes.
Right. Would you like to come in here for free?
No,
Maybe you
I
work
would
Saturday
not.
here for free.
Do you not have a day rate, Brooklyn?
No, they said they just couldn't pay people anymore.
Do you want Kyle and I to negotiate your deal?
What's that?
Do you want Kyle and I to negotiate your deal?
If you can be bothered.
Now, this is happening across all networks. So when a guest commentator goes on for a Hot Topic segment, they usually get around $250, $300 for the 5 to 10 minutes that they're on air. Not bad money if you can get it. But lately, the networks have been balking at that. First of all, reducing the fee, but then getting rid of it entirely. And it's all to do with budgets being squeezed because of the ad revenue, what's going on, the diminishing ad revenue. So people like Brooklyn don't turn up as much. You might think, why are people paying? They get to go on TV. Well, it's fun a few times, but you are providing a service. You're providing content, and those people deserve to be paid. And unfortunately, as the industry keeps imploding, they keep relying on favours. And favours only go so far. You'll do a few hits, but you won't be as engaged to turn up every week as when you're getting paid. It's a sad state and indicative of where the industry is right now. Let's end on a really nice note. The Guinness World Record-breaking news duo of Rick Arden and Susanna Carr have been recognised in the New York Times in a feature article acknowledging their remarkable achievement. Featuring specially shot video and stills, the article is a great read for people in WA who've grown up watching the pair deliver the news on 7 for over 40 years. It's really nice to see an Aussie achievement featured like this. Congratulations, Rick and Sue. And that brings us to the end of this edition of Media McKnight. Paid members of my YouTube channel get early access to each episode every Tuesday, so just go to youtube.com/@McKnightTonight, or you can watch it when it goes live at 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. The article comes out on the TV Black Box website the morning after. I'm Rob McKnight. I hope to see you again soon. It's good night from McKnight.